It was literally the hottest ticket in Mobile, Alabama this weekend. 30,000 people lining up around the block, all of them waiting in 90-degree heat to see the Republican frontrunner. Donald Trump also took in the view from above, of course, doing a flyby while the Rolling Stones roared over the stadium speakers. And when he landed, he doubled down on his controversial position to deny citizenship to the children of undocumented immigrants. And with us live now is Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. And Corey, just want to ask you about this. There's been a lot of back and forth about how Trump would execute this idea of taking away birthright citizenship. I suppose down in Texas right now, there's a lawsuit that says some officials down there are denying that citizenship to babies that are born in Texas. How is this going to work?
Well, thanks for having me on. And first, we have to think about how big of a problem this really is. So if you think of the term anchor baby, which is those individuals coming to our country and having children here so that their children can be U.S. citizens. There's 400,000 of those taking place on a yearly basis. To put that in perspective, that's the equivalent of the population of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the 47th largest city in our country. We have a huge problem with illegal immigration. The first thing we need to do is to build a wall to stop people from coming into our country illegally.
And what happens if, let me ask you this,
enforce the laws we have.
Let me jump in. Let me ask you, if somebody comes over from Great Britain, for example, a couple comes from Great Britain, and they have a baby in Manhattan, are you saying that that baby would also have its birthright citizenship taken away? In other words, it doesn't matter what part of the world the parents come from, or is this only about couples that come from Latin America?
No, it's from anywhere. There was a story just recently about the women coming from China to come and have their children here. It's well documented that the DEA and the INS has followed a number of women coming from China to have their children here so that they can be U.S. citizens. Look, we're the greatest country in the world. Everybody wants to come here. Everybody wants to be a citizen of our great country. There's a proper way to do that. In order to do that, we need to follow the rules, just like many of our ancestors did. They came legally. They came through Ellis Island or they came through other places, and then they had children here and have become great members of society. Coming to our country illegally is not an option any longer.
And let me ask you about this.
Illegal immigration is permanent. Right. Excuse me. Illegal immigration is coming through. We see the severity of the crimes that illegal immigrants are committing. We see that the catch and release program is a disaster. We see Sanctuary City should be defunded because of what has happened. We see people like Jamil Shah and Kate Steinle and their families who are first-class victims of these illegals, and no one wants to talk about it.
Let me ask you about this because
our country first.
Right, and I'm sure you heard about this. There were some reports that at the event in Alabama, there was a man in the crowd at one point shouting "White Power." There's that situation in Boston that cropped up a couple of days ago where these two men beat up an immigrant and said Trump was right. Are you concerned that this rhetoric, this anti-immigration rhetoric, is going to spiral out of control and people are going to get hurt?
Well, look, nobody's condoning violence, and Mr. Trump would never condone violence. And, you know, I don't know about the individual you're talking about in Alabama. I know there were 30,000+ people in that stadium. They were very receptive to the message of making America great again because they want to be proud to be Americans again. There's nothing wrong with being proud to be an American. Now, we would never condone violence. If that's what happened in Boston, then by no means would that be acceptable in any nature. However, we should not be ashamed to be Americans. We should be proud of our country, proud of our heritage, and continue to be the greatest country in the world.
And let me ask you about Jeb Bush. An advisor at his super PAC said that Trump is really other people's problem, not Jeb Bush's problem. What do you make of that statement? Are they being a little too confident that in the end it's going to be Trump versus Bush?
Well, I think what you have is a low-energy candidate who really doesn't excite anybody. You know, their super PAC says that, and then that same day in Alabama, they fly an airplane over the stadium to try and talk about Jeb's accomplishments, which are so few. So, you know, I think what they say and what they do are two different things. I think if his candidacy was resonating, he wouldn't have 125 people in New Hampshire 7 miles away from Mr. Trump that has 2,500 people. Okay. So I think the crowds and the enthusiasm speaks for itself.
The crowds do speak for themselves. That is very true. Corey Lewandowski, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.